You were never taught to think. You were trained to follow. And now you wonder why you feel powerless. Look at yourself. Really look. The alarm you hate waking up to. The morning routine you rush through. The commute that drains you before you even clock in. The job where your enthusiasm is manufactured, your loyalty is expected, your compliance is mandatory. 8, 9, 10 hours of your life. Gone. Then home. Too exhausted to question. Just enough energy to consume. Shows, games, social media. Artificial dopamine to compensate for the life that's been drained from you. This isn't an accident. This is design. From your first day of school, you were conditioned. Stand in line. Wait for the bell. Raise your hand for permission to speak, permission to exist, follow instructions, stay within the lines. Don't question authority. Don't disrupt. Conform. They didn't teach you critical thinking. They taught you obedience. They didn't nurture your creativity. They crushed it into standardized test answers. They didn't develop your voice. They silenced it every time it didn't match the acceptable script. And it worked. You became the perfect product of the system. Docile, manageable, productive enough to be valuable, broken enough to never demand more, ambitious enough to chase the carrot, defeated enough to never catch it. Look at the statistics. 72% of workers report burnout symptoms. Anxiety medication use up 217% in the last decade. 1 in 4 people suffering from mental disorders. Depression rates tripling since 2000. Suicide as the second leading cause of death among people under 35. This isn't your personal failure. This is systemic success. Marx called it alienation. The profound disconnection between what humans naturally are and what capitalism forces them to become. You're alienated from your work, creating value you'll never see, building wealth you'll never touch. You're alienated from your own activity. Your time is not yours. Your energy is not yours. Your purpose is not yours. You're alienated from your human potential. Your creativity, critical thinking, and authentic self-expression have been commodified, packaged, and sold back to you as personal brand. D. You're alienated from other people, transformed into competitors, threats, networking opportunities, followers, subscribers. Human connection reduced to transactions. The modern workplace has perfected this alienation. They call it culture now. Free snacks, casual Fridays, team-building exercises, wellness programs that teach you how to better endure the very conditions making you sick. They've rebranded exploitation as opportunity, precarity as flexibility, surveillance as analytics, wage theft as efficiency. You're told to find meaning in meaningless work, to be passionate about increasing shareholder value, to be grateful for the privilege of selling your limited time on Earth for barely enough to survive. And when you break, because you will break, they've got an answer for that too. It's your fault. You're not resilient enough, not mindful enough, not grateful enough. You need therapy, meditation, medication, self-care, more productivity hacks, better morning routines, anything but systemic change. Look at how they've weaponized self-improvement against you. Every moment of rest becomes a missed opportunity to hustle. Every interest becomes a potential side gig. Every talent must be monetized. Every relationship networked. Even your mental health has become a productivity tool. You can't just exist anymore. You must optimize your existence. Social media promised connection, but delivered isolation. It promised freedom of expression, but created new hierarchies of influence. It promised democratization, but concentrated power in algorithms you can't see or understand. It promised to be your voice, but became your leash. The average person spends over 2 hours daily scrolling through feeds scientifically designed to keep them docile, distracted, and deeply insecure. Each notification, each like, each follow, tiny dopamine hits that create the illusion of meaning while extracting your attention, your data, your consciousness. These platforms aren't connecting you to others. They're separating you from yourself. Notice how even resistance has been commodified. Anti-capitalism packaged into consumable content. Revolution reduced to aesthetic. Activism transformed into personal brand. Systemic critique diluted into inspirational quotes. The system doesn't fear your awareness of it. It fears your withdrawal from it. You've been trained to believe freedom means choosing between predetermined options, Republican or Democrat, Apple or Android, Amazon or Walmart, work from home or work from office, different flavors of the same exploitation, different aesthetics hiding the same emptiness. Real freedom, the freedom to determine your own existence, to control your own time, to direct your own mental energy, remains unimaginable to you. That's by design. They've constructed a reality where alternatives seem impossible, where collective action seems hopeless, where individual suffering seems inevitable. But the first step toward breaking their hold is recognizing it exists. Look at debt, the perfect tool of obedience. Student loans that force you into immediate wage servitude. Credit cards that keep you working to pay for things you bought because you were too exhausted from working. Mortgages that lock you into jobs you hate for decades. Medical debt that punishes you for the crime of being human with a body that breaks. The average American carries $97,000 in debt. They'll spend their lives working to pay it off, never questioning why basic necessities, education, housing, healthcare, require lifelong financial bondage. This debt isn't just financial, it's existential. It's the constant background hum of anxiety, the ever-present threat of destitution that keeps you compliant, the unspoken understanding that your survival depends on your ability to remain valuable to those who profit from your labor. Your precarity is their power. And when you dare to question this arrangement, the gaslighting begins. This is just how the world works. Previous generations had it harder. You should be grateful to have a job at all. If you don't like it, just leave. As if these conditions weren't deliberately created and maintained. As if there was somewhere to go that hasn't been colonized by the same exploitative logic. They've convinced you that this alienation is normal, that this exhaustion is natural, that this emptiness is just adulthood. It's not. Human survival has always depended on cooperation, creativity, play, rest, and purpose. For 99% of human existence, people worked to live, not lived to work. They created because it fulfilled them, not because it generated profit. They rested without guilt. They existed without constantly proving their value. Your discomfort isn't dysfunction. It's your humanity fighting to survive. Look at how they've twisted concepts to maintain control. Freedom became consumer choice. Democracy became voting between pre-selected candidates who won't threaten the economic order. Success became how effectively you can exploit yourself and others. They celebrate self-made billionaires who started with millions, inherited connections, and exploit thousands. They shame the poor for bad choices in a system designed to eliminate choice. They preach meritocracy while defending inherited wealth, private education, and nepotistic networks. Your belief in meritocracy isn't evidence of its existence. It's evidence of how deeply you've internalized their propaganda. The ultimate triumph of this system is convincing you that your inability to thrive within it reflects your personal failings rather than its deliberate design. You blame yourself for being chronically exhausted in a world that demands constant productivity. You blame yourself for anxiety in a world that offers no security. You blame yourself for depression in a world stripped of genuine community and purpose. You blame yourself for not getting ahead in a game that was never meant to let you win. The self-help industry thrives on this misdirection. It sells individual solutions to collective problems. It places the burden of change on you rather than the systems crushing you. It transforms structural critique into personal development journeys. Change your mindset, not the system. Adapt to exploitation. Don't end it. Become more resilient to abuse rather than fighting the abuser, and it makes billions doing so. Even rebellion has been co-opted. They'll sell you anti-capitalist books through Amazon. anti-consumerist minimalism through expensive, sustainable brands, digital detox apps through the very devices destroying your attention, workplace wellness programs that address the symptoms but preserve the cause. Your dissatisfaction has been merchandised and sold back to you. The greatest trick wasn't convincing you that your oppressors don't exist. It was convincing you that they're necessary, that without them, chaos would reign, that this extractive, exploitative system, despite bringing us to the brink of climate catastrophe, despite creating unprecedented inequality, despite destroying our mental health, is the best we can do. It's not. But imagining alternatives requires the very capacities this system has methodically destroyed in you. Creativity, critical thinking, collective solidarity, sustained attention, hope. To truly wake up means recognizing how deeply asleep you've been, how completely you've accepted narratives that serve power, how thoroughly you've internalized your own subjugation. Your obedience wasn't freely given. It was manufactured through deliberate systems of education, media, economic precarity, and social control. Your resignation wasn't a choice. It was the predictable outcome of repeated exposure to engineered hopelessness. They want you functional but broken, productive but empty, aware enough to work the machine but not aware enough to question why the machine exists or who it truly serves. This isn't conspiracy, it's efficiency. Systems naturally evolve toward what perpetuates them. Capitalism requires your compliance, your consumption, your willingness to trade your life energy for survival. It doesn't require your happiness, your fulfillment, or your wholeness. In fact, those things might make you less pliable, less willing to accept the unacceptable. Your misery isn't a bug in the system, it's a feature. So where does this leave you? With the most radical act available, thinking for yourself again. Not the shallow thinking they've trained you for, reactionary, consumption-oriented, individualistic, but deep, sustained, critical engagement with reality. Start by questioning everything you've been told is inevitable, natural, or necessary. Question work as currently structured. Question why time, your most finite resource, is valued so little. Question why basic needs remain commodified. Question why productivity matters more than purpose. Notice when you self-censor, when you avoid certain thoughts because they're too uncomfortable, when you rush to defend a system that hasn't defended you. That's not your authentic voice. It's their programming running in your mind. Pay attention to your body's resistance. The anxiety when you consider stepping out of line. The guilt when you prioritize rest over productivity. The shame when you can't keep up. These feelings aren't protecting you, they're controlling you. Recognize how completely normal has been made to seem radical. Basic human needs, security, rest, purpose, connection, autonomy, now seem like unreasonable demands. The desire for meaningful work, rather than endless toil, sounds utopian. The suggestion that an economy should serve human flourishing rather than endless growth sounds naive. This distortion of normalcy is perhaps their greatest victory. Breaking free begins with reclaiming your attention, your thoughts, your time. Not perfectly. Perfection is another tool of control, but persistently. It means creating space between stimulus and response, between what you've been told to want and what you actually need. It means recognizing that your value isn't determined by your productivity, your income, or your status. That your worth isn't measured by metrics designed to extract maximum value from you while providing minimum compensation. It means understanding that your exhaustion and emptiness aren't personal failings, but political outcomes. That your mental health struggles aren't separate from economic conditions. That your isolation isn't natural, but manufactured. Most importantly, it means seeing that you're not alone in this recognition. The system works by making your suffering feel individual when it's actually collective, by making structural problems feel like personal failures, by keeping us separated, comparing, competing, rather than connecting through our common condition. The most dangerous question isn't what's wrong with me, it's what's wrong with this system. The most threatening realization isn't your personal dissatisfaction. It's understanding how widely that dissatisfaction is shared. They want you searching for individual escape routes from collective problems. Better jobs, better partners, better habits, better mindsets. Constantly moving but never addressing the underlying conditions that make movement necessary. Real awakening isn't about escaping the system. It's about seeing it clearly, recognizing its patterns, understanding its purpose. Not to surrender to it, but to stop internalizing its logic, to stop blaming yourself for not thriving in conditions designed to extract, not nurture, to stop fighting yourself instead of fighting what's breaking you. This clarity won't immediately change your circumstances. It won't pay your bills or reduce your workload. It won't instantly create the community or purpose you crave, but it will change how you experience those circumstances, how you interpret your struggles, where you direct your energy, and that's the beginning of real power. So ask yourself, are you ready to think, or will you continue to follow? Are you ready to see clearly, even when clarity brings discomfort? Are you ready to reclaim what's been taken from you? Not just material resources, but your capacity to imagine, to connect, to create meaning beyond what's profitable. The system wants you obedient and broken. It depends on it. But you were born for more than obedience. You were born for more than productivity. You were born for more than consumption. You were born to think, to feel, to connect, to create, to exist fully in your humanity. The question isn't whether you can escape the system entirely. It's whether you can stop letting it colonize your mind, your time, your potential. Whether you can create space, mental, emotional, social, that operates by different values. Whether you can find others doing the same. You weren't taught to think, you were trained to follow. And now you wonder why you feel powerless. Stop wondering. Start waking up.